All right, guys, we are back saving the OBS Chevys Part 4. This is going to be our final video of this series. We're going to start, we've got all the metal work done on the driver's side. Now off camera, I'm going to go ahead and whip out the driver or the passenger side real quick. And then with this video, we'll go ahead and proceed on with the body work. That's about what this one's all about. So, and now as far as body work from after you get the panels on. So our panels are on. We're ready to hit them with the grinder, hit the welds with the grinder, and start body work. So let's go check them out. All right, guys, I hit them with the grinder a little bit just so you can kind of see what I was talking about some low spots that need to go back and fill with some tacks. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick. But there's only about, I don't know, 6 or 8 here. But we will do that, and then but all I used on that was a flap wheel on a DeWalt grinder. It looks something like this. This one's a little bit used up, but yeah, these work the best for cutting welds in my opinion, instead of the little 3-inch grinders. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and finish knocking all the rest of this off after I fill in these spots, and then we will be ready for body filler. And like I was saying before, if you guys you know, if you did this right and flanged it right, this right here is perfectly smooth. You can, I mean, it's just tiny bit recessed, so there's going to be a nice, you know, low spot there to put our filler. So but we'll be back and show you guys that here in just a second. All right, guys, we got all that welded up. Got everything ground pretty good. You can see there's still, you know, a little bit of low spots here and there, but that's what our body filler's for. You can tell that we've got really good penetration. We had nice hot welds. Our panels are on there. They're not coming off. So, yeah, I spent quite a bit of time here smoothing these out. You really can't hardly see the weld at all there. But just remember when you're grinding these, keep your grinder on your weld, don't get on your panels. You don't want to take any material off your panels. So just take your time and hit your welds. And so that's it for that. We're going to go ahead and get the body filler ready, and we will get ready to start mixing some or laying out some body filler on this and smoothing these off. Before we do that, we got to hit it with some 80 grit. So we're going to go ahead and well, we'll hit everything here with 320, and then I'll hit it with 80 grit around where we're going to be doing our body filler, so we've got good adherence, and you know, then we'll sand that out. So real quick, I'm going to grab some 80 grit, set this up on the tripod, and mix up some body filler, and we'll start spreading it out. All right, guys, we got everything cleaned over there with some wax and grease remover, and it's all wiped down and ready for a body filler. Now we're going to go ahead and mix up some body filler real quick. We're not going to need a lot, but oh, there's my old stick laying down in there. You can only spread so much at a time, so I mix up about how much I can spread. We can always come back for more. Less waste this way. It's about 1 inch of hardener per golf ball sized amount of filler. So just kind of imagine a golf ball. There's probably about 2 golf balls there. I'll just put a couple inches, and don't forget to knead your hardener also. Work it back and forth because it's going to be liquidy and runny. About 2 inches there, plenty. We'll cut this in half. I don't need it all. All right, guys. Give this stuff a good mix. Like I said, I already cleaned all of my area, everything I needed to clean, so that's already done. I didn't show that, but I just used wax and grease remover on it. We'll mix this stuff up real good. Nice skim coat over the whole thing. You guys can see my low spot there I was talking about. It's just kind of filling in. Just keep on it going, just like that, all the way down. We'll go ahead and set you guys up on the tripod and time lapse the rest of it, but you guys can see kind of how I'm going, just filling in the low there. Now sometimes you'll have to come back and put a second coat on, but we'll try to get enough on there this first time so we don't have to go back too many times. I hate going back and redoing it, but fill in the low spots and we'll be ready to block it out here in a few minutes. All right guys, we got a skim coat on everything. You can see I did the bottom too where all my spot welds were, so there's nothing showing. It's gonna look just like factory when it's done. We still got our factory seam there. Not a lot of filler, just a skim coat, guys. We'll hump it up if you got any low spots, so you don't have low spots after you sand, but it's not a lot to it. We'll let this dry and we'll start blocking it out with some 80 grit. We'll get it close and we'll probably have one more light fill to do. Then this side will be about ready for primer. If you guys are learning anything, hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe and the notification bell. We will be hopefully getting this in primer by the end of the day, so stay tuned, keep watching. All right, I went ahead and put another skim coat of filler on all my low spots. There wasn't very many. This side here pretty much was perfect. This side here, I had a couple little pinholes right in here I had to fill. All this stuff laid out nice and smooth with the first coat. This stuff here, there's a couple little low spots through there, so I built it up, a little bit, but then I also had the remainder of what I couldn't get out of this dent here and here. I pulled them the best I could, but now they just needed a skim coat to kind of hide my bodywork where I beat on it with a hammer and stuff. But yeah, and then here when the panel was shipped to me, there was a little bitty ding here, so I went ahead and filled that so it'll be nice and straight. This here now, it's just ready for 80 grit. Block it back out one last time. All this stuff here, and then it's ready for primer. So we will go ahead and block it out real quick, and we'll be back when we've got it ready for primer. All right, guys. Today we took a little break from the rust repair, and we're getting the frame coated. We've already cleaned it, prepped it, done all the metal prep and everything, and now we're coating it with the 415. It's pretty simple. Just brush it on. This stuff is like concrete. It works great. I wish I would have bought stock in it because I buy this way more than I would like to admit. But it's really great stuff. We use it a lot. One other thing we did that I didn't show on camera, we ran around here, and the cameraman wants to follow me. We went ahead and threw the inner fender on, that rotted out one that was on here. We went ahead and got the brand new one in and threw it in. So taking a little break from the rust repair. We got the driver's side all done. Now we're the passenger side is cut out, and it's almost ready to put it back together. But just a quick update. We're going to get back to it. All right, guys, we have all the body work done. We are ready for primer. We're going to go ahead and shoot these jambs today, both sides. I'm going to go ahead and prime them, and that stuff will dry pretty quick. Then I'll sand that real quick, Scotch-Brite it, and then we'll go ahead and shoot our collar today, hopefully, if everything goes smooth. And then our jambs will be done. Great stuff. It's moving along smoothly. I've got Lou down here still going to town with the Pour 15, getting her all coated up. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get these things sprayed. I'll go ahead and put you guys on the tripod and you can watch us spray these jambs. All right, guys, our primer's dry. You can see I just kind of blended it up into here a little bit, past our Bodywork. One thing I did have was a pinhole. I just rolled up a piece of tape and daubed it in my primer, and then while it was still wet before it set up, I just filled that pinhole. So now I'll just sand that away and it'll be completely gone. That's just a little tip I've picked up along the way to fill a pinhole so you don't have to go back and do anything later. It's filled with primer and it's good as gold. So I'll go ahead and sand these with some 500. I'll sand my blend here. That's the only blend I have. I'm painting it up to the windshield up here at the top. But the bottom will blend it in down here, right underneath that hinge and up. So I'll sand that with some 800 wet, and then we'll go ahead and get these doors shot. These jambs shot, both sides. The other side turned out pretty good too. I'll go ahead and set you guys up on the tripod and get this stuff sanded and hopefully get it sprayed before the end of the day. All right, guys, door jambs are sanded. I went ahead and blocked it out with 500. It's nice and straight. I took 320 Scotch-Brite, the red color Scotch-Brite, and just kind of cleaned up, made sure all the rest of it was still good and clean, and no overspray from the primer up into here. Now we will go ahead and wipe it with wax and grease remover and spray these things real quick. That'll finish out our day today. We can come in tomorrow and tape them up, show you guys how we tape them up, and then get the rest of the truck sprayed. Hopefully get it in primer tomorrow. The other spots that we needed, the quarters and stuff. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get back to it. All right, next day, everything's dry. These things turned out slick. I don't know if you guys can see that. Couple little bitty pieces of trash in it, but that's okay. I'll go ahead and polish that, even though it's a door jamb. We don't let that leave like that. We'll go ahead and unmask everything. But before I do that, I wanted to show you guys a little technique that I learned along the way. It's called back taping. That's what I call it. You take a piece of 1.5-inch tape, instead of running a solid line down your edges on the outside of your paint job where you're stopping, you take a piece of 1.5-inch tape like this, and you basically just fold it in half, you know, and when you place it on there, you place it with the closed end, you know, towards your paint, like so, and then that allows it to stick to where what you're wanting, and then leave you a sticky edge to apply your paper. So that way, you know, and then the other added benefit of that is there's no hard line now. It's a nice soft line that's, you know, blown over. There's no, and when you peel your tape, you're not going to peel your paint off with it, which happens. I've seen that happen a lot to a lot of people. You know, paint, this stuff is 90% prep, you know, 10% paint. So it's really, really important to, you know, these little tips and tricks really help out. And you know, I will go ahead and get back to it, unmask this. I already unmasked the other side, but we're gonna go ahead and unmask it, and then I'll go ahead and do that back taping. Now on these jambs, after I peel this off, I'll back tape it here, and then I'll go ahead and tape up my jambs. That way when I'm spraying the body here in a little bit, we do not get any overspray on these fresh, clean jambs. The paint's, you know, it's dry overnight, it's completely hard, so we can tape to it. There's no problem with that. No problems there. I'm gonna go ahead and set you guys up on a tripod, unmask this, and get to it. All right, everything's unmasked. I went ahead and put the inside back together, both sides, so it's, you know, basically done. I got to throw some screws in that yet, but I'll worry about that later. But now we're going to check our gaps. Let's take a look. Nice. Those are perfect gaps right there. Our gaps down here, perfect. The underside turned out nice and slick. Beautiful. Now we will go ahead and open these doors, back tape it around the edges, tape up the jambs, and then go ahead and mask it up and throw some primer on the rest of it. We'll be back. All right, guys, we are back. We've got everything remasked back up now. Both sides, I masked it up basically exactly how I'm going to be spraying it. And then I just took this piece of paper on the same on both sides and just kind of blocked. I don't want to get any primer or anything up above. All I'm priming is my bodywork. That's it. Priming these spots, and then also I wasn't really even supposed to do anything on the doors, but whoever painted this truck last painted around the molding so you can kind of see the different colors and the different shades, and then that created some unevenness, so I had to block all that out. But yeah, that turned out nice. So they're gonna have to be blended in, I guess, because it burnt through so much. But I'll prime all this, seal it, and then we'll just basically blend our collar, you know, up into here somewhere, and then I'll pull this after I prime. I'll pull this, and then you guys will be able to see, you know, a little bit higher or a little bit more of where we're going to blend it to. But also on the back here, whoever painted it just did some terrible prepping. They didn't do any type of, you know, I can't say they didn't do any sanding, because they did some sanding, but all right through here the paint just peeled off. You can kind of see it. So I sanded that pretty good and got all the flaky stuff off of it, and so now we're ready to give it a good coat. So I'll set you guys up on the tripod real quick, mix this stuff up, and I'm gonna go ahead and spray it. I'm just gonna use our 2K primer. It's 4-to-1. That's primer with a hardener. It'll be set up by the end of the day. We'll probably be able to sand it and block it out. So we will get at it. All right, guys, primer is on. It's good and dry. Here in a few minutes, I'll go ahead and take just a cheap old can of black spray paint, lightly dust it on there, and that'll be my guide coat. I'll block out my areas back there, make sure that's perfectly straight, and then wet sand the rest of it with 600. And then same thing over here on this side. I'll do the exact same thing and then block it out. And then as far as that goes, I still got to spray get the fender in here. It's outside. I already sprayed the back of it and put it together, but I got to spray the front of it. So I'll bring it in here, set it up, and then the hood. I wasn't supposed to do anything to the hood, but I'm pretty much respraying the whole thing anyway. So the whole truck. So I figured I might as well. I got to looking at it, and you can see where whoever's painted on it before, you can see this blend line here. There was a bug shield, and instead of taking the bug shield off, they just blended their clear down into here and then buffed it out. So I mean, it ain't much extra for me while I'm here. I had to take it off anyway. There's some little chips and stuff in it here and there. I'll go ahead and fill, but I'm gonna go ahead and fix this for him real quick, and then I'll spray it all at the same time. So we'll be back shortly. All right, guide coat's dry. I went ahead and sanded it lightly with just 320 on a block. It's just a soft block. You guys can see now. Now I sanded this with 80 grit before. That's usually what I do my body work in, and I just prime right over the 80. I've done it that way for years. As long as you sand out all your scratches in this primer stage, it's just fine. Now, what I want to show you is the guide coat. See here, I went ahead and put guide coat on this here, just so I can block it out too and make sure it's good and straight. But if you look here, when I wipe it, you can still see sanding scratches. The guide coat sticks to the low spots, and that's what I'm talking about. And that really helps you and shows you, and it's you know, where all your mistakes are. And it's just $1 for a cheap, you know, $1, $2 for a cheap can of spray paint, whatever. You know, just dollar store spray paint, and just spray it on there like that, and you know, we'll sand all that stuff off. It'll be gone. Which it shows you exactly where your low spots are. Now, all my low spots are not bad enough that I'm going to need any filler or additional body work. They're literally just sand scratches. So I'm going to go ahead and block this one out the rest of the way, and this one out here the rest of the way. I kind of did the same thing, just knocked the top off there and make sure we didn't have any bad body work. Everything's nice and straight. You can see it's a little lower here, but like I said, this is primer filler, so I made sure I laid it on nice and thick in my area here where I know I did body work. So everything else is pretty much solid. Didn't do any body work. I didn't have any warping. Everything looked good. So now it's just straightening and truing up this part here with the block. So I'm gonna keep doing that for a little bit and come back in a little bit and we'll have this thing ready to spray. All right, everything is blocked out. Everything turned out really nice. I do have a couple little spots that I might have to blow a little sealer over. For my sealer, all I'll do is just mix my primer down about 10%, thin it out, and then just spray it on a few minutes right before I spray on my base, let it dry, hit it with Scotch-Brite, and then go right into my base coat. Now that's a benefit of using this primer. It's right on the directions wherever it is here. It's 2-in-1. You can use it for a filler or a surfacer. So our base coat, we're going to be using, and here's the reducer for that, just a mid-temp urethane reducer. It's urethane paint. The base coat we're going to use is just the XL Fleet white. That's what this truck came out, the color code came out. It's 2-to-1 normal, 1-to-1 optional. I usually spray this stuff, I believe it's right around 2-to-1. You might have to add just a little bit more thinner, but that's really pretty close to 2-to-1 when I spray it. And then everything is already, like I said, blocked, and I Scotch-Brited the entire truck now, and the hood and the fender. So we're gonna go ahead and mix up a little sealer, and then we'll go ahead and spray that on real quick and then go right on into our paint. We'll give it probably 2 coats. That's pretty much what it's taken to cover this. 2 good coats, and then we'll probably put on 3 coats of clear. That's generally how I do it. Now, as far as how I'm going to lay it out, I'll start spraying here. I like to keep a wet edge when I'm spraying. So I'll start on one side here and go ahead and, shoot this, keep it going all the way around, and I'll work my way around to the other side. I usually, work in about shoulder width increments, about as far as I can reach, and then move on. Now, is also another thing I wanted to say was, anybody can do this stuff, guys. I'm nobody special. I've been doing it for about 16 years, probably in total. I've worked my way to where I'm at now, and anybody can pick this up and learn it. It's not rocket science. There's a lot of tips and tricks you can learn. You don't have to have all the big fancy tools, all the big metal brakes and all the bead rollers and all. You don't have to have that. You can do a lot of this stuff by hand with hand forming and all that. All this stuff can be learned. It doesn't take, you need an air compressor, a few air tools, but I do most of my stuff by hand, most of my sanding. That way I know it's all nice and straight, nice and even, and that's just the way I prefer it. But less is better for me, I guess. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and tack this off again. Go ahead and, here's the tack cloth I use, I guess I should say. Just a normal old crystal tack cloth. I'll go ahead and tack it off again. I'll do this a couple times, and then I'll do it in between coats. After it's dry, I'll hit it again. Make sure there's nothing on it, no dust or nothing falling on it. You don't want anything in between your coats, because when you go to lay on your clear, it's just going to highlight that. If you know, or if you go to sand and buff it and you had some dust in between, you'll see little dirt spots in the paint, little nibs and stuff, and you don't want that. So just grab a tack cloth and tack it off a few times, and we'll be ready. All right, sealer's on. I went ahead and just, like I said, dusted the spots where I had slightly burnt through. I don't need to seal the whole thing. It's fine. Now I'll go ahead and let this sealer dry for a few minutes, tack it off, and then go right straight into my base coat. You know, within about 15 minutes or so. Probably 15-20 minutes. We've got it pretty warm in here, so I'll probably set you guys up on a tripod and get a little filming done. But once I start actually spraying on the clear coat and everything, I'll probably not do a whole lot of talking and stuff. I'll probably just hammer down. When I'm spraying my hood, make sure, or I guess if you're doing this too, make sure you know, you start on this side of your hood or that side of your hood, and you work your way over. Don't ever start in the middle of the hood. I see that a lot. And I guess if you got two guys spraying, one on each side, you know, it's okay to start in the middle of the hood and work your way back. But if it's just you, start on one side and work your way across. Keep that wet edge. You know, same thing when you're working on anything, and always go right back. You know, if you ran out of clear or something, you need to refill, and you're, you know, halfway on the panel, hurry up and refill that. Have your clear and everything ready, you know, for the next fill, and go right back to where you left off and try to keep that wet edge. If not, you're going to run into problems with, you know, weird looking spots in your clear and dark spots and, you know, this and that. But also, when you're spraying your clears and your bases, don't go too fast. And how I can tell when my stuff's ready, your base coat dries really quick. You can, you know, pretty much just touch it and tell it dries really fast. But your clear coat, I'll just you know, touch it with my finger around after I lay my clear on. And if there's little strings coming off of it, it's not ready. So you don't want to do that too early. You'll run into solvent pop issues and this and that, and that's a whole other can of worms you don't want to open. So yeah, don't get too fast. Just take your time. It's always best to take your time. You can always lay clear on, you know, quite a while after it's, you know, your first coat's put on. So now I'll go ahead and set you guys up, go ahead and start spraying my base here, and we'll be back for a little update. All right, first coat is on. I did not time lapse that. I just went ahead and laid it on real quick, let the room clear out so we can come back in. You guys can kind of see how just a light, good, nice light first coat. You don't have to cover everything on your first coat. Just lightly coat it real good. That'll give us something for our next coat to stick to real good. Same thing on the other side. Just a nice light coat. We'll come back in here in a minute and hit it again. Fender, good light coat. It covered really well. We'll come back in one more coat, and then we'll be ready for some clear coat. If you guys are learning anything, thanks for watching. Really, we really do appreciate it. If you're learning anything, make sure you smash that like button, that subscribe button, and the notification bell. We're only getting about 9% subscribers right now. That should be somewhere around 30%, I think. That would be nice. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We're gonna get back at it and get this thing painted. All right, our base coat is fully dry. And one thing I wanted to say real quick, when you think it's all done, you're done basing, you got 2 or 3 coats on, just make sure you take a light. I've got a little handheld light. Just make sure you go around and check everything. Check, because I did that, and I had a spot here that I had to come back and touch up. You know, it was a little bit dark there. And we don't want that. When we put it all together, we want nice, even coverage. We want this stuff to look good when we're done. So make sure you go around with a light, a little handheld light. I laid it somewhere, now I can't find it. But anyway, make sure you go around with that. And here it is. Just a handheld light. And it just, I've got quite a bit of light in here, but there's still some dark spots where you know, you just can't see it all without a light. So go around, check it out. Everything else looked really nice, really good coverage. You do not want to lay on your clear if you're not ready for it, because it will just highlight. If you miss something, you thought it looked bad before you had clear on it, it'll look real bad afterwards. It intensifies it. So make sure you got good coverage. Make sure everything laid out nice. Make sure you don't see any sand and scratches from your primer stage. If you see any 80 grit sand and scratches, they'll show through. Right now is the time to take some 320 or you know, 500 and lightly sand those out. And then if you need to, you can blow in another coat of color on it. That's pretty much all I've got for tips right now. I will go ahead and set you guys back up and we'll start clearing this. All right, third coat of clear is on. I ran it right around 28 to 30 psi. It came out really nice, fine. Laid out slick, guys. I don't know if you can see it. Very little dirt in it. I've got very little buffing to do. Nice and slick, the whole thing. One thing I am gonna do is wrap this video up here because it's getting a little long. The next video will be of us rebuilding the bed. It's got some issues on the bottom with the frame rail, or the mounts, where it mounts to the frame. So we're gonna cut all that out, fix that, and undercoat the bed and do a little touch-up work on it. But yeah, and then finish assembling it in the next video also. But this video here is getting a little long, so I feel like it's time to go ahead and nip it. If you guys are learning anything, if you got any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. I'm no expert, but I have tons of friends in the field that I can call anytime. Look how slick that is, guys. Barely any sanding and buffing. Barely. Beautiful paint. That's what you're going for. As little work as possible. Here there's just a few little bitty teeny tiny dirt nibs. I don't know if you guys can see them. Pretty slick though. All that stuff will buff out nice and easy with 2000 grit. Fender, nice and slick. Really like it. Turned out well. All right, guys. Catch us in the next one.